Alex Richardson in chat who says, the grind is much worse. I'm only speaking from a casual perspective. I mainly do world quests and anima quests.
Oh, yeah.
Fair enough, Alex. Fair enough. Doesn't sound like a great time.
Yeah, no, I actually remember being really weirded out whenever Shadowlands launched, because I was so used to gearing from world quests in Legion BFA being like, oh yeah, you know, you can actually kind of technically do this if you log in over and over again. And if you log in every day, there'll be like a new thing. It'll be slightly better. But whatever way that worked with it being gated with renown, and also with how the scaling of the rewards actually worked, and the reduction in number of rewards, at least I found from the less world quests overall, I found that gearing for world quests is basically like, it's something I would maybe occasionally do in alts, but I just don't. It's never high enough to be an upgrade for me.
Yeah.
And that's like kind of killed, I guess, for a lot of that. Like, log in, do some single player content for 20 minutes a day crowd.
Yeah, well, Renown, in a way, Renown ruined the way I wanted to gear my character up. Like, I wanted to gear my character by just grinding BGs and getting used to PvP. But the item level caps,
Yes.
it was like, I think to get to the item level that I wanted from that honor gear, it was like 4 weeks too late. You know, because that item level would have been pointless by the time Mythic Plus and all that stuff had opened up, and, you know, we could start going into raid. And that was just the thing where it's like, that could have been a way that I would have played the game a lot more, but I couldn't, because arbitrarily it was just time gated by Renown. And as we covered before, Renown is not a battle pass or anything like that. It's just a time gate.
Would be better if it were a battle pass.
Yes, it would be better if it was a battle pass. I think that may not be the direction we'd want the game to go into, but as a thing, it would be better and more engageable like that for sure. Yeah, kind of funky, I guess. And you know, when we're talking about your anima and our world quests, and there's somebody else who said here that they're worried about 9.1 because they don't want another Maw zone. They hope that Korthia is something unique. That's Kay in chat who says that. The Maw sucks, is what they say. I actually kind of agree with the Maw not being great. I don't think it's a great experience. I just don't think it's fun, and I'm never there for a reason that's got to do with it.
Yeah.
You know, it's not like I go to the Timeless Isle to do Timeless Isle. It's like, no, I'm going to the Maw sort of begrudgingly. I mean, I'd say that if I actually went there. I just didn't bother. I was like, extra sockets on my gear? I won't need that to kill Denathrius. I don't care. As long as I can be decent and it's that thing. You know, me not doing any of that try-hard stuff and literally raiding with an item level 158 Wild Spirits conduit, because I'm not doing the Venari lottery. You know, I can still do raid nights with blue and purple parses. It's just fine. So, it shows how ignorable some of that stuff actually is when you free yourself up for it. Their plan with the Maw was basically this, like, Dark Souls zone. And they even said that. I mean, you get Stygia, you die, you lose half your Stygia. It's inspired by Souls, obviously. I mean, even if it's not obvious, they said it, so that's where they got their ideas from. So that's why it was supposed to be slow and dangerous, and you can't mount up, you lose your Stygia when you die, but it just never translated into fun gameplay because nobody actually wanted to be there for its own reasons. Yeah. They were just getting Stygia for other reasons. So it's like Dark Souls, but you're getting the souls to do something else that's not your core Dark Souls experience. Therefore, you're not going to feel like in line with the content that you're doing.
Yeah, that's one of the things that like aggravates me about the Maw more than anything else, is that it's actually technically not that bad.
Yes, this was a fun discussion earlier in the office.
Like, there's a lot of stuff actually wrong with it in terms of like some parts are annoying. Not being able to mount kind of sucks for all these reasons. But I think the major problem that the Maw had was being part of World of Warcraft as an overall thing. Like with Torghast, as you say, well, what would Torghast be without the Maw? What would the Maw be without Torghast? What would the Maw be without it being tied into grabbing your renown every week?
Yeah, exactly.
Like, if they just cordoned that off and said, hello, here's the Maw, Stygia is for upgrades in the Maw, and at the end there's a mount. At the end there's a cool boss and a mount. If they had doubled down on it being a unique bit of gameplay that you went in for its own sake, instead of throwing people into it, them going, what the fuck is this? Why am I here? Can I please go home? But if people went in there because they wanted to, or because there was a card at the end of the stick, then I think people would actually have enjoyed it a bit more if they'd reframed some stuff.
Yeah.
But it's like it could have worked. But
yeah, I agree, and it goes back to what you were saying earlier about like just that thing of Blizzard constantly bribe us to do our content or do their content instead of making us want to do it.
Yeah.
So it's like, okay, you had all your artists and your quest designers and your combat designers put a bunch of areas and interactions and things into the Maw, but then you basically just sabotaged it by ruining the player's motivations for going to the Maw. And that means nobody wants to go to the Maw. And as you said, yeah, the Maw's actually right now, it's got some cool little fights. It's got some cool elements and events and things, things that go on.
Yeah.
And yet we're in a situation where nobody really seems to like the Maw, even though it's good technically sometimes, but not with the overall way that it's done now. In the same way that Torghast, if Torghast was freed up from Soul Ash, if your Covenant stuff is maybe not all tied to Renown, such that, maybe I could engage with my Covenant stuff, like the Covenant campaigns, in a way that wasn't just trying to progress my Renown track, because I actually wanted to do that content. It's just like that thing, I guess, of trying to tie everything together so much that their weaknesses drag each other down. And I think that's what makes things less than the sum of their parts, which is really sad, because the Maw is full of really nice parts. So is Torghast. So is basically, much of this expansion. I just think that maybe a bunch of decisions had to be made late in the day. Maybe there's a situation where the Maw, sure, maybe Blizzard would have agreed with us, but they just didn't have the stuff in place in time, and they had to just sort of throw it all in.
Imagine, the Maw is right, like Bolvar standing there, or Venari standing there at Oribos with a stopwatch going, right, you've got 5 minutes, in and out, quick go. And you go in, maybe not a timer, but can you make it in there long enough to get as much things back? Oh, you've made it back, good job, great, that was like an A+ run, you managed to get all the stuff. Here's gold, here's something, here's a way to progress in this thing later. That actually would have been fine.
So I mean, I 1,000,000,000% agree, and the point is basically just let things be themselves. They all need to be hooked into each other.
Yeah.
And because at least that would mean that in my head, if I'm going to the Maw, there's a big degree of intentionality and desire there. Because right now it's I just want to raid, and there's a bunch of things that it's I've got to do this so that I can raid. It would be different in terms of the mental framing, I think, of how the game is experienced. If, you're doing your raid, but after your raid, you're like, oh yeah, there's those other distinct things in the game to go and do. Where, you haven't kind of been strung along to a corrupted version of those things for the sake of, getting your Stygia to get your conduits upgraded or whatever that jazz was that, obviously, I never partook in because it didn't seem fun. And that's why I've enjoyed Shadowlands so much. I just didn't partake in most of the things that people complain about. That's why I was like, cool, I'm going to kill Denathrius with his cool talking sword and his cool phase 3 with a guild full of cool people, and it'll be fun. And funny enough, it was.
Here's another food analogy. Shadowlands is a buffet. You took the right approach and only ate what you wanted.
Yeah. Yeah, that's it. But it's actually different because it's Shadowlands is like a buffet, but you have, I don't know, maybe it's like a buffet, but to get the steak that you want, you've got to sample everything else in the buffet, such that by the time you get the steak you want, you feel sick.
That's basically perfectly it.
That's what they risk doing when they tie things in and make things feel mandatory. I mean, look at Horrific Visions.
Yeah.
Those were awesome. I love Horrific Visions. If you could just let me do them now and the scaling would work, I'd be like, oh, cool, fun, Horrific Visions, they're awesome. But in order to do Horrific Visions and my alts, I had to go and do some of the most mind-numbing world content that has ever been seen in the game with those two 8.3 patch zones. Right? And it's I loved, loved the Horrific Visions so much, but there was just such a great barrier to entry for actually doing them because you had to do your chores first.
Because you could get loot from them. And you're like, yeah, okay, you've just...
Yeah.